RPG rules idea, foreshadowing.
Right. So what is foreshadowing? So foreshadowing in a game or a book or a novel or anything like that is when you give your audience enough hints to understand that a twist or a reveal or something is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So they may not catch on quick enough that the reveal was there, but by the time they see it, they're like, oh yes, this makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do this incorrectly, where there's no sort of that, then they feel blindsided, lost, scared, afraid, angry, whatever. And so a great example of this is simply, in reality, is Star Wars Episode 9. There's this one scene where all of a sudden the Kylo Ren, the villain, is seeing Han Solo. And they're actually like in such a way that you think that Han has come back from the dead. And you're like, I don't even understand what the heck's going on here. And you eventually realize that it's probably maybe in his head. You're not really 100% sure.
Or a force projection, maybe, but Han doesn't...
Han's not a force user, so how does this... And you're sitting there going, I don't And anyway, not like I had good reasons to like the last trilogy anyway, but the point is they did a lot of this stuff where it was like, oh, well, we thought we foreshadowed this. It's like, no, those either never got filmed, hit the editing room floor, or were totally changed directions and then changed directions back, and you never clued us in on what was going on. And the last thing you want in your game is where you're like, what do you mean the homeless beggar's now the big bad? I had no idea. And it's like, well, I dropped all these clues. And it's like, well, what clues did you drop? And then the DM's like, oh, I didn't actually drop those clues. Or, well, remember that one guy who mentioned he's not what he seems? And it's like, 17 months ago?
Nope.
Like, no.
Don't remember that.
So how to foreshadow correctly is simply this. Do it 3 to 7 times more than you think you need to.
Yes.
And I mean times, not instances. So if you think you only need to foreshadow this once, foreshadow it 3 times. If you think you need to foreshadow this 3 times, you need to foreshadow it 9 plus times.
Yep.
Because really, at the end of the day, you want your players to kind of understand it. And so I'll give you another example. So whether you've watched Game of Thrones or read the books, you get enough hints going throughout the books that Jon Snow's real mom Jon Snow's real mom is not somebody that Ned slept with. So his dad is not his dad. And then there's enough hints where like they keep telling you, like Ned keeps having these weird dreams where he goes and he's like, he gets to his sister's bedside as she's producing a child, or there's a child with her. And then she ends up getting killed. You don't exactly understand how. And then the next thing you know, like, you know, a couple chapters later, they're talking about, you know, Ned just showing up with a kid and not wanting to talk about it. And you realize, like, Ned's whole character is about honor and discipline, and he would never cheat on his wife, even if he didn't know his wife, which he didn't really at the time.
How many times is Harry considered the chosen one?
Right.
Because she needs to beat that he's going to be the one who's going to save the day.
Right, yeah, so Harry Potter is called the Chosen One 1,000 times. Even in the first couple of chapters, once he gets into Diagon Alley, everyone's silent, like, there's the boy who lived, right? It's very much, it would be a shock if all of a sudden Neville, who was the other option, is like, no, it's Neville's the Chosen One, not Harry. Wait, why are we not doing Neville Longbottom and the Chamber of Secrets, and Neville Longbottom and the Dark, you know what I mean?
It would be very revealing in terms of where is this coming from. If you're following Harry for all 7 movies, and on the 8th movie it pans over to Neville, and Neville's the star of the show and does everything.
And you're like, I don't understand what's going on. So what you want to do when you're foreshadowing an event in your game where maybe it's like typically it's going to be the reveal of the big bad, right? The big bad guy or gal is going to be somebody who is helpful to the players. Right. And so they've been helpful this whole time. And then all of a sudden at the end or at the very end or a very pivotal moment in the scene, they reveal themselves to be somebody other than they are. And you don't want your players being like, what just happened? What you want is throughout the whole time they're playing is simply things like this. Somebody that they don't necessarily like or trust says, you have to watch her. She's not what she seems, but I can't prove it. Now, they may not like the guy who said it, so they may just miss the information. But then there might be a guard or something who comes and tells them something, not like anything overt, just like, it was really weird. I thought I saw her down in the torture chambers one day, which is like, wait, that wouldn't make any sense for this person's character. But then the next time you go to try to find the guard, you find out, she tells you, oh yeah, he's, I went ahead and restationed him.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, but then maybe later on you find out, no, he actually died. But it's not sure, did he die
Yep.
on the way to the restationing? Did he die before the
Yep.
restationing? You
The
know?
other thing you can have at that same time is, and this would be more of a constant,
Yeah.
as you're starting to get closer to the reveal, she's less and less helpful and maybe a little bit more hostile with her tone.
Right.
So her personality's shifting.
Yes.
And her helpfulness is shifting.
Or it could go the other way. She becomes overtly helpful.
To a disturbing degree, and then once you take that, which you're getting now, with things that you've heard from the past about her,
You're like, this is different.
this is odd, and with what we know, I'm starting to be a little suspicious on what's going on.
And the overt help could be things like, oh yeah, I just got a message today that tells me that those, like the orc tribe is coming through that mountain pass. So if you were to get there before them, that would be helpful. And I'll give you 100 guys. And then you get there, and by the time you arrive, they've already moved through. Or they just never show up. And meanwhile, that same orc group hits another location because you're now like stuck watching an empty pass. And then when you come back and confront her with it, she's like, well, I mean, my information can't be 100% accurate. But you start realizing her information is never 100% accurate anymore.
And
And
it was before pretty
Yep.
close, and now it's a lot worse.
now that you're the threat, you're being sent places where, oh, you should go here because it's going to be, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't go there. You know what I mean? And why is she sending her 100 strongest? Like, why is she always sending her strongest people out with us? Like, it looks like she's trying to get a good chunk of people out of the way. Like, what's going on? So you'd want to have, like, literally just nibbles of that all the way through, where at the very beginning, it's one or two people just hinting at a suspicion or maybe saying that they saw this person someplace they shouldn't have been. And then they end up going, they disappear, or maybe they just do literally get reassigned. Like, it's not even a nefarious thing. They honestly are reassigned someplace.
Yes.
But then as you keep going through, you realize these things are stacking up. This doesn't this isn't what a lawful good cleric of Palor would be doing. What's happening? And how come every time we meet her, we're always in this anti-magic field? So we can't even do any like detect thoughts. We can't do detect, like, there's nothing we can do to like pass through her.
Yep.
To see if she actually is what she says she is. And she says it's all about security. You know what I mean? Like, well, I can't be attacked by a fiery sword or a fireball in this anti-magic field. This is how I've been able to rule the kingdom forever. And you're like, well, that makes sense. But
And especially because you could have the thing of, oh yeah, she had several assassination attempts on her in the past. So
it makes
yeah,
sense.
it makes sense why she's overtly cautious. And then you start to realize, why was there assassination attempts on her?
Exactly. Yeah. So the concept here is just, if you're going to do something, do more than you think you have to, because the subtle guy in the cafe saying one line 6 months ago is not enough. 3 people saying one or two things, it's not enough. You need to have a statement, and then a little bit later on, there's an action that confirms said statement or causes more of a doubt. And what you want to do is just weave a web of doubt on the person that you're trying to foreshadow, or the event that you're trying to foreshadow, or whatever you're trying to do here. So
your players don't necessarily go, I know exactly what's going to happen, and they're right, but they're like, I don't necessarily know what's going on, but I know we can't trust her.
This is sketchy, right? She wants to send us where now? Yeah, I don't think we go there, because every time we go someplace she asks us to go,
something bad happens.
Either we're not in the action and something horrible happens somewhere else, or it's like a freaking death trap that we barely get out of. You know what I mean? And so I don't think we should listen to this woman anymore, or this guy anymore. So anyway, hopefully with that, you'll know how to try to begin to foreshadow things in your game, and you'll have a better time with your players. With that, we'll see you next time.